Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into a case that really captured national attention and frankly broke a lot of hearts. The Delphi murders.
That's right. And it's more than just a tragic story. It's become this landmark case because of how digital evidence played such a huge role, but also because of the incredibly long road to get to a conviction.
Absolutely. So today we're going deep into the source material on the 2017 murders of Abigail Williams, who was 13, and Liberty German, 14, in Delphi, Indiana.
hmm And our focus is really to unpack everything, the timeline, the evidence investigators held back for so long, that sort of unexpected break in the case years later, and of course the details that finally came out during Richard Allen's trial in 2024.
Okay, let's set the scene first because the location and the timing are just crucial here. It all starts on Monday, February 13th, 2017.
Yeah, Abby and Libby, as they were known. Libby's older sister, Kelsey, dropped them off around 1:30 in the afternoon.
And they were heading to the Monon High Bridge trail. It's this old abandoned railway bridge, right? Pretty well-known spot locally in Deer Creek Township, Carroll County.
Exactly. Huge structure, kind of remote wooded area over Deer Creek. They were just out hiking.
And the last concrete sign of life we have, which is just gut-wrenching now, is a photo Libby posted on social media.
Yeah, of Abby walking on the bridge. The timestamp on that was 2:07 p.m.
And then, not even 4 hours later, they're reported missing, 5:30 p.m. They were supposed to be picked up by Libby's dad earlier around 3:15 p.m., but they never showed.
Right. So the family, community, police, everyone starts searching that evening.
And the next day, Tuesday, February 14th, around noon, that's when they found them.
Tragically, yes. Their bodies were found about half a mile east of that bridge on the north bank of Deer Creek.
And just like that, it shifts from a missing person search to a double homicide investigation. The shock must have been immense.
Oh, absolutely. Immediate shockwaves, not just locally, but across the country.
Which brings us straight to maybe the most defining part of this whole case, the digital evidence left by Libby German herself.
This is just incredible, really. The sources really stress this point. Libby, 14 years old, in that situation, had the presence of mind to use her phone.
She recorded video and audio.
Both. Video and audio of the man believed to be the killer. The police later called her a hero for it, and I mean, how could you not without that recording? Who knows?
It must have given investigators something concrete right away, but also a massive strategic puzzle. What do you release? When?
Exactly. So just 2 days later, February 15th, they release a still image from that recording. It's grainy, not great quality.
The bridge guy picture.
That's the one. A white male, hands in his pockets, head down, walking towards them on the bridge. That image was everywhere, instantly.
Gave people something to look for, even if it was blurry.
Right. Then, a week after that, February 22nd, they released the audio, just a short clip.
The down the hill audio.
Yeah. Muffled, but you can clearly hear this male voice saying, "Down the hill!"
Chilling.
Yeah.
Just those 3 words tell you so much about the control he had in that moment.
Absolutely. But even with that video snippet and the audio, the investigation just stalled for years. And a big reason for that was a conscious choice by the police.
To hold back details about the crime itself.
Exactly. The sources are clear on this. They deliberately withheld how the girls were killed, other specifics from the phone evidence. It's, standard practice in many ways.
Protects the investigation, right? Prevents false confessions.
Precisely. Keeps details secret that only the real killer would know. That helps vet tips later on and makes the eventual case much stronger. But it meant the public was largely in the dark about the specifics.
Even so, the reward money started pouring in. Climbed pretty high, didn't it?
Yeah, over $41,000 essentially. The public was desperate to help.
But the visual identification part got really confusing. That first sketch they released in July 2017.
Right, that one wasn't based on the video at all. It was based on eyewitness accounts of someone seen hiking on the trails that day.
And it looked quite different from the bridge guy photo. Younger, cleaner cut features, maybe 20s or 30s.
Yeah, completely different vibe. And for 2 years, that sketch was the dominant image people associated with the suspect.
Until 2019.
April 2019. The Indiana State Police announced this major shift, called it a new direction, and they released a second sketch.
Which looked much older, rougher, more middle-aged.
Totally different. And this time, the police message was also different. They urged people to think about someone potentially hiding in plain sight, someone local.
Someone familiar with Delphi who lived or worked there, maybe visited often.
Exactly. It was a huge strategic pivot. They were trying to shake things up, maybe suggest the first sketch was misleading, or maybe target a different type of suspect profile entirely.
Must have caused a lot of confusion, though. Two very different faces for the same suspect.
Oh, it definitely complicated things for tipsters. But police must have felt it was necessary. Around the same time, they also asked for help identifying a driver whose vehicle was left abandoned near the highway that day.
Near an old child services building.
Yeah, between noon and 5 p.m., they were clearly trying to connect dots closer to home, looking for local suspicious activity, moving away from just a random hiker theory.
But despite all the digital evidence, the sketches, the public appeals, the case just went cold. For 5 years.
5 incredibly long, frustrating years for the families, the community, and law enforcement. Just stagnation.
Which makes the way it finally broke open even more unbelievable. Came down to correcting an error, right?
Yeah, it really did. And this part of the story, moving into the breakthrough, it highlights how sometimes the smallest details, even bureaucratic ones, can change everything.
Okay, let's unpack this. September 2022. The logjam finally breaks. How?
It starts with a volunteer file clerk, Kathy Shank. She's reviewing old case files, old tips.
Just doing routine work?
Pretty much. And she finds this tip from years ago, like way back near the beginning, but it was misfiled.
Misfiled how?
The key issue was Richard Allen's last name. It was recorded incorrectly when the tip first came in. Just a simple typo, probably. Yeah. Because of that typo, it couldn't be properly cross-referenced or followed up on. It got marked as cleared incorrectly and just sat there, buried in the system.
For 5 years. Because of a spelling mistake. That's... Wow.
It's staggering, isn't it? But Kathy Shank noticed the potential error, figured out the correct name was Richard Allen, and brought it back to the investigators' attention. Incredible diligence on her part.
So what was in that original tip that suddenly became so important once they knew it was about Richard Allen?
This is the kicker. Richard Allen had actually talked to law enforcement himself voluntarily just 3 days after the murders back in 2017.
He reported himself.
Why? He spoke to a Department of Natural Resources officer. Back then, in 2017, his story was that he was on the trail that afternoon, February 13th, for about 2 hours, just, hanging out.
Okay, so he put himself at the scene right away.
Yeah.
What about when they interviewed him again in 2022, after the tip resurfaced?
His story got a bit more detailed, but also kind of weird. In that October 2022 interview, he said he was wearing jeans and a black or blue jacket, which roughly matches the bridge guy description.
Okay.
He claimed he went to the bridge specifically to watch fish.
Watch fish from that high bridge.
Yeah, seems odd. He also mentioned seeing 3 girls pass by, not 2.
3? That's a strange detail to get wrong.
Very strange. And his timeline was a bit fuzzy, too. Said he left his mom's around 11:15 a.m., got to the trail around 12:415 p.m., so his own account puts him squarely there, wearing similar clothes, but with these odd inconsistencies.
The red flags must have been waving like crazy for investigators at that point.
Absolutely. But placing him there wasn't the same as linking him directly to the crime. That required the evidence laid out in the probable cause affidavit.
Which was unsealed in November 2022 after his arrest. This is the document that legally justifies the arrest, right?
Oh.
Spells out the evidence.
And it contained the real bombshells, starting with the enhanced analysis of Libby's phone recording.
What did the affidavit confirm about the video and audio?
It confirmed the video showed a man matching Allen's general build and clothing description from his own statement, approaching the girls. And crucially, the audio transcript confirmed one of the girls mentioned the word gun just before the man ordered them down the hill.
Gun. That's huge.
Huge. And investigators formally stated in the affidavit they believed Allen was the man in that video.
Okay, so that's the digital link. But the forensic link, that unspent bullet, that seems like the most concrete piece of physical evidence.
It was the linchpin. Investigators found a single .40 caliber unspent round on the ground.
Unspent, meaning it wasn't fired.
Correct. It was found less than 2 feet from one of the girls' bodies, right between them. It hadn't been fired from the gun. It had likely been ejected manually when cycling the action, maybe loading or clearing the weapon.
But how do you link an unspent bullet? Ballistics usually relies on marks from firing, the rifling in the barrel.
That's what makes this so compelling. You're right, no rifling marks. But when a round is chambered and then ejected from a semi-automatic pistol, the internal mechanisms, the extractor, the ejector pin, sometimes even the feed ramp, leave microscopic marks on the casing.
Ah, okay.
And these marks are unique to that specific gun, like a fingerprint for the gun's action.
Oh, they could match it.
The affidavit stated it definitively. Forensic analysis determined that the unique quality and quantity of marks on that unspent casing matched a .40 caliber Sig Sauer P226 handgun owned by Richard Allen.
Wow. So his specific gun signature was right there at the crime scene between the victims. That's incredibly powerful.
Undeniable physical link. And then you layer on the witness accounts mentioned in the affidavit.
What do they add?
One witness reported seeing a man walking away from the bridge area later that afternoon, described him as wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans, and importantly, he looked muddy and bloody.
Which fits Allen's clothing description and, well, the nature of the crime scene.
Exactly. And remember that abandoned vehicle police asked about back in 2019?
Yeah.
The affidavit included a tip describing a car parked oddly near that old child services building, looking like someone was trying to hide the license plate. Investigators matched that description to a car Allen owned back in 2017.
So putting it all together, Libby's video and audio placing him there, his own inconsistent statements, the muddy and bloody witness sighting, the oddly parked car, and crucially, the unspent bullet from his gun found right next to the victims.
The probable cause became overwhelming, which led to his arrest in October 2022.
And suddenly this man, Richard Allen, who was just a local pharmacy tech, became the face of this horrific crime. It must have shocked the Delphi community.
Absolutely, because he wasn't some drifter. Richard Matthew Allen, born in 1972, had lived in Delphi since 2006. He was part of the town.
Grew up nearby, right. Went to Ivy Tech for accounting, did short stints in the Army and National Guard. Pretty standard background.
Completely unremarkable on the surface. His work history was steady, too. Managed a Walmart for 10 years.
Until 2013. Then he worked at CVS.
Yeah, 2 different CVS stores, including the one right there in Delphi. He even got his pharmacy technician license in February 2018.
A year after the murders.
Exactly. He was the definition of hiding in plain sight, just like the police suspected back in 2019 when they released that second sketch. He was embedded in the community.
The arrest must have brought some relief, but the road to the actual trial was pretty bumpy, wasn't it? Lots of legal drama.
Oh, it was incredibly turbulent. Almost immediately, December 2022, Judge Francis Gull issued a gag order, had to try and control the media frenzy.
Understandable given the national attention. And the defense wanted to move the trial.
Right away. They argued that finding an impartial jury in Carroll County was impossible because of all the pretrial publicity. Pretty standard defense tactic in high-profile cases.
And then things got really messy with the defense attorneys themselves in October 2023.
Yeah, that was wild. Judge Gull actually removed Allen's main defense lawyers, Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rossi, from the case.
Why? What happened?
The judge cited gross negligence. Apparently, sensitive crime scene photos had been leaked from their office. Unauthorized people saw them. It was a major breach.
Wow, that could have derailed the whole thing. So the defense team was just gone.
Temporarily, they appealed, arguing it violated Allen's right to counsel. The Indiana Supreme Court stepped in and eventually reinstated them a few weeks later.
What a mess. It just shows how much pressure was on everyone involved. Investigators, lawyers, the judge.
Absolutely. The stakes were sky high, and procedural integrity was paramount, especially after the early investigative fumble with the misfiled tip.
So the trial finally gets underway, October 2024. And the public starts hearing the details police had kept secret for over 7 years.
And those details were brutal. The prosecution's opening statements laid it out plainly. Both Abby and Libby had their throats cut.
Just horrific. And there were disturbing details about the clothing, too.
Yes, the sources confirm this. Abby Williams was found fully clothed, but she was wearing Libby German's clothes. Libby, meanwhile, was found nude.
Those details paint a very specific, very grim picture for the jury. It underscores the violence and potential motive.
It really does. It brought home the reality of what happened on that trail beyond just the down-the-hill command. And it set the stage for the prosecution to hammer home the evidence.
Starting with that bullet, how did the trial testimony solidify the link to Allen's gun?
A state police firearms expert testified very clearly. They explained the science behind matching the unspent round those microscopic ejector and extractor marks.
The gun's unique signature.
Exactly. The expert stated unequivocally that the quality and quantity of marks proved the bullet had been cycled through Allen's specific Sig Sauer P226. It wasn't just a similar gun, it was his gun.
Okay, so the physical evidence was strong. What about Libby's recording? How was that presented?
They showed the jury an enhanced version of the video, 43 seconds long, clearer visuals. And the audio identification was key.
How did they confirm the voice?
A state police master trooper testified he had listened to hundreds, over 700, of Richard Allen's phone calls made from jail while awaiting trial.
listening for comparison.
Right. And his expert conclusion presented to the jury was that the voice on Libby's phone saying "down the hill," the bridge guy's voice, was Richard Allen's voice.
So you have the visual, the voice, the bullet from his gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tight case.
A very tight case. But then came the evidence about Allen's own words while incarcerated. The confessions.
This part is just mind-boggling, the sheer number.
It's almost hard to believe. Prosecutors revealed Richard Allen confessed the murders more than 60 times.
60. 6-0.
Oh.
That's not just a slip of the tongue.
Not even close. It was apparently rampant. He confessed to basically everyone.
Who did he tell?
His wife, his mother, other family members on phone calls. He confessed to the prison warden, to the psychologist treating him in prison, to other prison staff, even to other inmates.
And it wasn't just verbal.
No, the confessions were made in person, over the phone, and even in writing. It was pervasive. It made it incredibly difficult for the defense to claim it was just, delusion or confusion.
And we should mention, the public didn't hear these confession details until later, right? After the conviction.
Correct. In April 2025, they released the interrogation videos from his arrest day where he denied everything, side by side with recordings of 8 of those later phone call confessions where he admitted guilt. The contrast was stark.
So facing the bullet, the voice ID, and 60-plus confessions, what could the defense even argue?
Their strategy really had to shift to Allen's mental state. They essentially had to argue that, yes, he said these things, but he wasn't mentally sound when he said them.
So the confessions weren't reliable because of mental illness.
That was the core argument. They brought in 2 experts. A clinical psychologist testified that Allen had been diagnosed with a serious mental illness and had a grave disability. The idea was the confessions were symptoms of his illness, not admissions of fact.
But didn't Allen tell that same psychologist details that actually confirmed parts of the crime?
Ironically, yes. He reportedly told the psychologist he'd originally planned to sexually assault the girls, but got scared off by a nearby van. He also admitted, according to this testimony, that he had cut the girls' throats and covered their bodies with sticks.
So even the testimony meant to show his disability ended up corroborating key facts for the prosecution.
It was a double-edged sword for the defense. They also had a neuropsychologist testify about Allen having pretty severe depression and work-related stress, trying to paint a picture of a man under immense mental strain.
But the jury had all the evidence, physical, digital, the confessions, the mental health testimony. They started deliberating November 7th, 2024.
And it didn't take them terribly long considering the complexity. By November 11th, 4 days later, they had a verdict.
Guilty on all counts.
Guilty. 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of felony murder.
Can you quickly explain felony murder again in this context?
Sure. Felony murder means a death occurred during the commission of another serious felony, even if the killing itself wasn't the original intent. Here, the underlying felony was likely kidnapping or attempted sexual assault, based on Allen's own admissions. So, because the murders happened while he was committing or attempting those felonies, the felony murder charge is applied.
Gives the prosecution another path to conviction.
Exactly. And then came the sentencing in December 2024.
What did Judge Gold decide?
She gave him the maximum possible sentence under Indiana law. 65 years for Libby's murder, 65 years for Abby's murder.
Served consecutively.
Served consecutively, back to back. So a total sentence of 130 years. Justice, in terms of the sentence, was delivered to the fullest extent possible.
It's such an intense story legally and forensically, but it's also crucial to remember the community aspect, how people honored Abby and Libby throughout those long years.
Absolutely. The community response was powerful right from the start. One of the most visible things was the Orange Lights movement.
That started pretty early, didn't it?
Yeah, back in 2017, Libby's mom asked people to put orange lights on their porches. Orange was one of the girls' favorite colors. It was a way to remember them, but also, while the killer was still out there, it was this constant, silent signal that the search wasn't over.
A really visible sign of solidarity. And they also worked on creating something more permanent.
Yes, the families and community members formed the LNA Park Foundation, a nonprofit.
LNA for Libby and Abby.
Right. The goal was to create a park, a space for nature, art, sports, something positive to commemorate their lives. They got land about a mile north of Delphi and have been developing the Abby and Libby Memorial Park.
It even got support from the NBA, right?
Yeah, an NBA All-Star Legacy Grant. Shows how much the story resonated. It's about creating something good out of something so terrible.
And their school also created a memorial.
Delphi Community Middle School, where they both went. They renamed the school library the Abby and Libby Memorial Library. a lasting tribute right within the school community.
It ensures their names are remembered for who they were, not just how they died.
Exactly. It's about legacy and resilience.
So wrapping up this deep dive, when you look back at everything from 2017 to the conviction in 2024, it feels like the resolution really came down to two very specific, very human moments.
You mean Libby's recording and the file clerk?
Yeah. On one side, you have Libby German, a 14-year-old girl, having the unbelievable courage and foresight to hit record on her phone. That action gave investigators the killer's image, his voice, and ultimately helped link him to the weapon found at the scene. It was heroic.
Truly. That digital footprint was everything, even if it took years to fully decipher and connect.
And then, on the other completely different side, you have Kathy Shank, the volunteer file clerk in 2022, just doing her job, meticulously reviewing old files and catching that one crucial error.
The misspelled name.
The misspelled name that had buried the lead for 5 years. Her diligence in correcting that simple, bureaucratic mistake was the key that unlocked the final door. It allowed police to connect Allen to that unspent bullet and make the arrest.
It's incredible how those two actions, one in a moment of terror and one in quiet administrative work, bookend the path to solving this.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? The sources lay out this incredibly complex case, years of investigation, forensic breakthroughs, but it was delayed by such a tiny error and ultimately cracked open by someone just carefully doing their job and by the bravery of a young girl. So the thought we want to leave you with is this. How often does justice in these huge nationally watched cases really hinge on these individual moments? Not necessarily the giant technological leap, but the courage of one person or the quiet diligence of another, just getting the details right.
It's a powerful reminder of the human element in all of this, both the tragedy and the eventual resolution, a lot to reflect on.
Indeed. That concludes our deep dives on the Delphi murders.